In this episode, I'm speaking with several software engineering leaders about Threads versus Twitter, flamethrower robot dogs, new Beatles songs being created by AI, a creepy new Amazon Alexa device, and news that the US military is starting to be replaced by artificial intelligence. So make sure that you stick around until the end of this video so that you can learn all of the latest tech news and industry trends. Welcome back to the podcast.
The Alfie Whattam podcast.
So, first topic of conversation, could Threads destroy Twitter or destroy X as it's suddenly rebranded before I had chance to change the graphics? Thank you, Zuck, thank you, Elon, rather, for that one. So, Instagram's new app has exploded in growth since launching, gaining 100 million users in its first 5 days, and many are saying it has the potential to damage Twitter or X's market share. Elon has since threatened to sue Zuck for stealing and for cheating. However, some people are calling the claims ridiculous. The growth of Threads has kind of, the daily active users has definitely gone down quite a bit since it started. But gaining 100 million users in like less than a week is probably the fastest growing social app in history, and probably even more than like GPT. So maybe it's even the fastest growing service in history. I mean, I know that term is going to get used like another 5 times this year probably, but it just is at this point. So could Threads destroy Twitter, destroy X? Keen to get your perspectives. Jason, when you hear about the news of Threads being launched, when you see Instagram's play to go against the stuff that's been happening with Twitter, with people, not all people loving it, some people hating it, and them trying to capitalize on that, what's your perspective on the story, mate?
I don't know. It's funny, isn't it? I think I saw a few memes at the initial launch, sort of talking about whether or not it was achieving the same growth that Google Plus did when it came out. And the fact that it's such a carbon copy, there's not, the innovation maybe is in how they're going to manage moderation and things like that, potentially. Yeah. I think you just have to wait and see. Like you say, it's all about active users, and if people get on it and the community changes and it's not something that's tangibly better for people or businesses than X, yes, then it won't last. And if it is, then it will. But a lot of that depends, I guess, on how people behave on the platform. And I guess I've used Threads a little bit, and people seem nice. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah.
Like I've used it a bit. It's been really positive and friendly and everything. Obviously, Instagram and Zuck have a different point of view on censorship and banning people. That Musk is a bit more of a free for all, and let almost everybody on it, and that obviously comes with some bad as well as the good side of the freedom of speech, whereas this is a little bit more focused on, we don't want politics, we don't necessarily want arguments happening on the platform. It's more a space for you to talk about sports or music or whatever, and that's definitely got more positivity, right, than the other side of the coin. What's your view, Yaro, on the platform or on the news? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I would say it depends, probably. If it takes the route of Instagram and it basically polishes the app to the state where it's like better than competitors, then definitely I can see it killing Twitter or X. But again, I mean, it's still in beta, right? So it's lacking loads of features, and maybe users will be running away because they don't have everything they have in X at the moment. So
it's a really good point, and you mentioned it a second ago, Jason. Like, it's a very light version of X at the moment. Like, it's got like the news feed, it's not even like a following list, is it? It's just like an algorithm. It's just like everything meshed together. So following, will add people there, but it's there's no separation at the moment. I don't know if it's got like searches or like hashtags. I don't think it's got anything like that. I'm sure it's got mentions. It's got a profile. I don't think it has DMs. I don't think it has audio, video. It's pretty basic, right? So it's not quite as good as X, just from a pure tech perspective at the moment. What do you chaps think about, like, people have gone on, they've used it, 100 million people, and it's not as good as like some of the other platforms that are out there? Do you think they're going to stick around, or do you think that X needs to quickly, Threads needs to quickly start shipping and building on this to kind of keep those daily active users in place? Google Plus, great example of something being really successful, and then suddenly being the complete opposite, where everybody left, and like I don't think it even exists. But if it does, it's like one tech blogger using it, and that's it. So, what are your takes on like the rise and how they could keep people with potential fall? What's your view on that side of the coin, Jason?
Yeah, they're sort of they seem to be on polar opposite sides of the scale, right?
Yeah.
X is specifically Elon Musk saying, I want the everything platform, right?
Yeah.
I want this to do everything from being your bank to do payments to being your instant messenger, like just everything in one box. Whereas Threads and Meta, I think they generally have kept products light and focused on some specific use case or type of user. You know, Instagram, I guess, which is, you know, where this is sort of, that's the company that it's spun out of.
Yeah.
Again, has done that, right? There's millions of features I'm sure they could have added to Instagram, but they've kept it pretty focused. You know, something like WhatsApp, I guess, which is their like DM platform. It makes sense that maybe they wouldn't bother adding that to Threads. If you want to do that with a Meta product, go and use WhatsApp or something. So, it seems like maybe keeping it light, keeping it focused, will be its strength. You know, in the same way that X is saying, making it the everything platform. They want to make it that app's strength. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I quite like having specific tools for specific jobs. Sure. I don't really mind having like loads of different things that I use for different purposes. I like having that little sandbox that I know I go to Instagram when I want to look at pretty pictures and nothing else, you know. If I want to speak to my mum, I go to WhatsApp. And that's I think that's pretty good. So we'll see. It might be that X as a payment platform, he's built them before. Like everyone loves PayPal.
Absolutely.
So maybe it'll be a smash hit. We'll see.
And if he can pull it off, obviously, you know, he's already the richest person ever, but, you know, he'll be the richest person ever times 2 or something. So obviously that's, you know, taking on the financial industry is the industry if you want to make money. I agree with what you're saying. Each Facebook product seems to serve a particular market and they tend to stick with it. They do definitely copy other platforms like, Instagram, copying Snapchat with the stories and then copying TikTok with the reels, and that kind of feels like what Instagram has almost become to a degree. But I think it's really smart the fact that they labeled Threads under the gram rather than Facebook, because the Facebook brand is just like nobody's interested in that. You know, it's dead, isn't it? Too much bad press, and it's just been around for too long, so the fashion was just gone off that platform. Whereas with Instagram, it's still cool. Like, you know, Instagram's got 2 billion daily active users. It's still like a great platform. They haven't even turned on like promotions, like I haven't seen anything in Instagram like saying like, hey, go and check out Threads. There's been no alert, there's been no notification or anything. So I imagine the daily active users, once they've dropped more features, will be successful, and I think this app will probably take off and become a thing. I don't know if it will replace X, but I think you'll probably start to see, you know, multiple people in that world, whereas before it was really just Twitter, and then like Blue Sky and Mastodon and like all those like other little niche ones that nobody really used. They didn't really catch on. What's your take, Yarrow, on I guess that conversation around like them needing to add more features? Could it fail if they don't? Could the 100 million people turn into the next Google Plus? You know, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I would say it all depends again, to be honest. If they are slow in releases, then definitely their fate is kind of controlled by Musk and what he does. Because like if he does more controversial things, then there's a high chance that people will start moving to Threads. But at the same point, I believe they will add a lot of features because like that's a big company and they have resources to actually do that. And eventually they will get to a bit closer to whatever X or Twitter is currently, and people will start going there. Another thing with Mastodon and Blue Sky, I believe both are still in beta or even like something else.
I got a invite code from the CEO of Blue Sky to do the beta, and it was a cool platform, but it was exactly the same as Threads. It was just a basic version of Twitter. I mean, I know it's decentralized and everything, and that's great, you know, for a super techie, but for the average person using it, they don't really care, about that.
Yeah, and that's my point, because basically only a developer or even the particular developer will know about Blue Sky or Mastodon, because it's really niche product, and with Threads and Twitter, it's like everywhere. It's public and everyone talks about it, so people will definitely move to that one. So we'll see.
Yeah. What about in terms of who will win then? If we're doing the cage match, which might be happening, Musk versus Zuck, Threads versus X, who is gonna, 5 years from now, who is the leader on that type of messaging platform? I don't really know what you'd call it. I guess I could say like a tweeting like platform, because the word tweeting is, I guess, dead now. So maybe that'd be like the dictionary definition for that type of social platform, if that makes sense. But who's going to win? Threads versus X. 5 years from now, let's get predictions. Jason, what would you say?
Who's going to win? Oh, maybe they'll be fighting. This is going to such a cop-out answer. I'm really sorry, but maybe it depends. I feel like one of them's going to be doing boxing and the other one's in MMA.
Okay,
and it's like,
I think you're probably right.
Yeah, who would win in a fight? I hope that Threads doesn't try to bloat itself, copying a bunch of people and focuses on the community, because a lot of the time with the platform, especially with social media, and I guess microblogging is no different than any of the others, and maybe it's more public, is if people can find a community of individuals who are interested in talking about the similar subjects in a positive way that kind of gives them something, that'll get people to stay. I still use Facebook Messenger with some groups of friends, because they're like because they're like, that's the platform they use, and I go there for the conversation. Yeah. So I hope that they focus on that. Yeah. I feel like Twitter maybe has lost its way maybe a little bit in focusing on having productive communities. Yeah. And maybe X will be loads better at that.
Sure.
But that's who I think will win.
Both and neither.
Yeah, both and neither. I'm going to say Threads, because I've got to pick a side, haven't I?
You do. I think the whole, it almost, I believe, kind of will be like almost like the political party, because Musk is kind of, clearly on one side of the aisle. Maybe that will attract his mindset to that platform, as opposed to, Zuck on the other end of the spectrum. I don't know what Zuck's political views are, but if I'm just guessing.
Reptiles from space. The Illuminati.
The lizard person. Yeah. There's a really funny clip online of him talking about how he says something like, if I was human or something, and then he corrects himself and goes, but I am a human. He had a moment of realization there. But
it's got the in-ear just reminding him.
Yeah.
Breathe. Don't forget to make sure that they know that you're a human being.
Maybe there'll be political differences between the two platforms. I don't know, but that's what my gut would tell me. But what's your take, Yarrow? You have to pick a winner. Threads, Twitter, X, Bebo, MySpace, Friendster. What's happening? Who's winning?
Yeah, I'll probably be on the same side. I'll start the same side that Jason started, because, to be honest, I can't see anyone currently winning, but we'll definitely see in the future. Again, I have a feeling that they will probably share the market, and maybe one will be a bit more powerful, another one will be a bit less, but still, it's going to be a sound competition, and that's what I hope it's going to be, because that will allow users to get more benefits, because if they start actually fighting to each other, they will start introducing new features, new discounts, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. It feels like there hasn't been much innovation in that micro-blogging world. That's probably, you said that term, it's probably a better word than just saying tweeting, I guess. So, I think if I had to kind of give my point of view, I think if X can pull it off, become the everything app, then obviously they will win. I just had my wife's parents visiting, and they everything's on WeChat, because they're from China, right? And that is the everything app in the East. We don't really have one in the West. There isn't really an everything app. But if Musk can create that, then amazing. So the X rebrand is either going to be the best business decision of all time, or the worst, and it's going to completely crumble, and Zuck's just going to come and steal his lunch. I've got no idea what's going to happen. I'll be active on both of them, but follow me on both of them. Yes, but we'll see what happens anyway. Hey, this podcast is brought to you by WeLoveAlpha.com. If you're looking to grow and hire and scale your software engineering team in the UK, then go to WeLoveAlpha.com to hire the best software developers on the market. Everything across Java to C# to PHP to Python to React and Angular and mobile and more, go to welovealpha.com to hire the best software engineers in the UK now. All right, next clip. This was actually sent to me on Twitter X, so point for you guys. But you can send me clips on that platform if you want to send me interesting news or whatever. My handle's on the screen right now. This is a robot dog flamethrower machine. I've never said that sentence before. I don't think I'll get the opportunity to say it again. But I'll show a quick clip of this on the screen for people watching on video at home. So this is the Mon Otter, if I'm pronouncing that right, from the company Throw Flame. It's the first ever flamethrower wielding robot dog. Some people are saying this could be useful for like warfare, maybe even like crop management, you know, like forest management. But others are saying this could be really dangerous in the wrong hands. Obviously, you know, you can't be buying this from Walmart or Tesco, can you? And just letting a flamethrower robot dog walk around. Crazy that like even 3 years ago when we started this podcast, I didn't even think we'd be having that as a news story, but we do. I mean, I remember talking about the difference between React and Angular, and now we're on robot flamethrower dogs or something. So interesting development. But what are your chaps' take on this story? Yaro, do you want to kick us off, mate? What's your point of view?
Yeah, I mean it sounds a bit crazy. To be honest, currently I'm thinking about some 10-year-old kids who would probably be up for buying it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you can't really allow them to do that because they can cause a lot of harm and a lot of problems. So to be honest, I don't really see the market, the audience, who is going to be, who they are targeting. But again, I mean, talking about the current news in the world, I mean, in Greece, it would have been better if they developed a robot that can actually,
have a water gun on the back of it?
Do the firefighting at least.
Yeah, well, I mean, you mentioned you weren't sure of the use cases. I think, you know, like, you could have it in warfare, I guess. You could have it for like crop and field management and stuff. I don't really know what else. Like the gimmick of like shooting the flame as it for a YouTube video and like but then you've spent all that money on the robot just for that one purpose, which some people would do. I mean, I just feel like there's like an army of these one day just being controlled by some 15-year-old kid in Iowa, and he's just sent like a bunch of them just off into the streets.
Yeah, but to be honest, I would rather focus people's minds on something that is not creating a war or something, you know.
Oh, of course. Yeah. I'm not saying the use cases are you know, good use cases. Yeah. I'm just saying like it could be sold for those purposes, right? What's your take on this bizarre one?
Yeah, didn't Elon Musk give away a bunch of flamethrowers?
The boring company flamethrower. There was no robot dog.
If you're wondering what the market is, maybe you should just get that email list. It's tough, isn't it? You think about history of armament and defense investment leading to various things. Sure. We have, you know, the internet came out of DARPA. This is a DARPA project or whatever, Boston Dynamics.
Yeah.
It's like it's all tangled up, and I think we're talking about the jet AI flown jet, and it made me think about this story that from World War II, and you guys might know if you've ever looked into it back in the day before sort of reliable wireless radio communication. People used to use pigeons, right? And they'd get pigeons to send messages,
the whole Twitter thing, right?
Send them off. Yeah. And they were like, these pigeons are really clever. I wonder what else they can do. So they did loads of tests, and they got pigeons pecking a button. Pigeon pecks the button, gets a bit of food. Let's start moving this button around. Button's moving around. Pigeons pecking it, following it really well because they're quite a nimble animal. Then it's like, oh, well, let's take away the button. Let's just change it into like a light spot. Let's do that. I'll follow the light spot, pecking the light spot, give it some food. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to stick this pigeon inside a missile. We're going to link up the guidance system to some optics at the front, and it will be looking at a ship, and a ship on the sea looks like a dot. Pigeon pecks the dot. It guides this missile towards the ship. And that's not science fiction. That's real. They actually didn't try it. They did it, and it worked.
Okay.
It actually turned out that radio guidance systems sort of caught up and overtook it, so it didn't become But I think the idea of using some intelligence to guide some munition wherever that's sat is just kind of is already there.
Yeah.
You know, cruise missiles doing automatic targeting and things like that. You don't necessarily need a robot that looks like an animal that we recognise to see that there are kind of robots doing this sort of work already. And, when we think about what AI is being applied to, it's kind of making art, making music. Maybe I'd rather a human being doing that, and I'd rather, robots doing some of the manual stuff that we don't want to do, and maybe getting good robots means you need the US Department of Defense to buy a bunch of robots with its defense budget to make robots good so they can work in hospitals. So the whole thing is wrapped up in this, like, humanity seems to be really good at spending its money on building weapons and that then generate loads. I'd really much rather it if we spent our money doing the thing directly, but it seems hard. People seem more interested in buying weapons, but this stuff comes out of it and it's like, it's very hard, isn't it?
The Enigma code, I mean, like, war creates innovation in a horrible way. But I'm sure that they could just do innovation without the war. I'm sure that would work as well. But it does tend to have causation and correlation. The bird one, I've never heard that story, but that's fascinating. But I remember a similar story about a cat. I think it was a US FBI or like Secret Service or something. They spent like millions like injecting this cat with like microphones and like fake video eyes and stuff to like have it spy on. I think it was like the Russian embassy or something. They sent it and it got hit like instantly by a car. Yeah, project over. So real animals, you got to be a bit careful with those. But this is obviously a robot dog, so slightly different. Obviously, Boston Dynamics were like the big robot dog guys, but this, I believe it's not Boston. I think it is like a competitor who have copied it, because I believe Boston Dynamics don't allow their robots to be used for this sort of thing. They've got really, really strict T's and C's, and that they're more like focused on warehouses and like automating, like you said, the boring parts of work. I think this is another company, but similar to before with Twitter and Threads. So let's go like succeed or fail. Do you think the specific use case of having a flamethrower on a robot dog will be a thing? What would you say, Yara?
I mean, probably it will be, but again, I think it's just a robo dog and a flamethrower, and they're just married together. That's all. I mean, it's not a big deal.
It's a great cliff, but it's a pretty simple.
Yeah, exactly.
Product,
so you can put whatever, I don't know, ice cream maker on that robot and just wander the street and give children the ice cream.
That's a way better use of it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I do see the future for it. I mean, especially with all the automation that's happening in the world, it definitely has its place to be.
Yeah.
So yeah. Whether it's going to be with a flamethrower or something else, but yeah, I definitely see that robot dog wandering around the streets and, I don't know, doing something.
Hopefully with giving out ice cream, not fireballs, but yeah. What about you, Jason? Yes, no, succeed, fail? What would you say?
Yeah, definitely succeed. I think like that kind of robots and automation and robots that have recognizable modes. I think the biggest thing about that is, a lot of robotics previously is you sort of need to change the environment to allow the robot to exist in it, which is often an environment that humans have to live in. So anything that we can do to mean that actually the robots are adapting to the way that we want to exist in the world, I think is a really good thing. So yeah, I hope this succeeds, and I really hope it's giving out ice cream. That's a great
the actual
outcome.
Dog Spot by Dynamics can do just what you described. They've just figured out how to open doors without humans being involved. Before, you'd have to like look at it was like a Nintendo Switch device. I've held it before, and you could like use it to press on the door handle and it would open it. Now you don't need that. A robot dog by Boston Dynamics can now walk around the entire factory, open doors, and do the tasks provided without the constant need for human supervision. So I think that really echoes what you just said perfectly. Okay, moving on to something a little bit more lighthearted. The Beatles, Paul McCartney has said that AI has enabled a new final Beatles song. The musician says he has used artificial intelligence technology to extricate John Lennon's voice from an old demo, and will finally complete a decades-old song, which will be released this year. So this year we'll have a Beatles song, and it's not like this Kanye AI singing "Hey There Delilah" sort of thing, which is really entertaining, but this is an actual song which John Lennon sung, was meant to be on a Beatles album, but they couldn't quite hit the right notes or whatever, and they've picked up the old grainy footage of the audio, and they've used AI to basically make it really polished and nice, and they're going to put that to create a new final Beatles song. I don't know if this will have like new like vocals from like the other ones as well. I don't know. There was like very limited information about it, but we will have an official Beatles song by AI, the final Beatles song. It better be good. If this is terrible, this is like really tarnish their legacy to some degree. But what are your thoughts on Beatles AI? Yara, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, I really like the idea and the fact that it's not like, as you mentioned, Kanye or Drake, I think.
Yeah, the Drake one, famous one.
Yeah, so it's not like mimicking someone, but rather improving the voice or like the recording that they have. So this is like a completely different side of the coin, and yeah, definitely can be a future for us, especially like we can't really re-record Lennon anymore, and yeah, that's a shame, but yeah, it is what it is. So I would really love to listen to that one. On the other side, again, AI is taking over, and the future in music. I mean, I do music a bit. I'm not recording or anything, but I would love to have that tool to kind of, even like something like quantization or something where you need to kind of move the sounds a little bit. It really helps. And if it can be like done live with the AI while I'm playing, and it kind of moves the sound a little bit, or like, yeah, it would be really nice. And yeah, that's probably all.
What's your take, Jason, on?
Yeah, I don't know. You said this was non-controversial. Maybe I should drop in the controversy.
Please do.
There's something about music being so like emotionally connected to someone. There's like a layers of things here. Well, I think that what we're talking about is like that remixing or that kind of remastering or something like cleaning up something. You see that kind of colorized Victorian or like speed adjusted Victorian footage, and it suddenly kind of reveals something about the reality of the moment. Yeah. And I'm down for that. I think that sounds like a really good educational and really interesting tool. I think the idea of using generative AI in this area is like Paul McCartney probably releasing it under McCartney Lennon, probably. It's like looking at it being like
very clever play if he does it.
This is what Lennon would have wanted it to sound like, and we know that because that's what he sounded like previous. Is maybe kind of taking out that creative process of maybe the reason why this track was unfinished was because Lennon was like, I don't want to do something I've done before. This song means something new to me, and I want to try to work out a different way of singing or a different way of playing. And it's sort of taking that out of the individual's hands from a creative process by sort of generating it on the basis of things that they'd previously done, I guess. Yeah. And so that sits a bit uneasily with me. I guess the other part is the posthumous thing, right? And kind of not having consent. That's tough. And maybe they can say, well, the musical rights are owned by the estate, and the estate has said, go for it, because it's going to generate loads of marketing and it's going to make loads of money, which is great for everyone, sure. So yeah, I don't know. I'm definitely going to listen to the output, right? Because another Beatles song, brilliant.
It's my favourite band of all time.
I mean, who doesn't want more of that? Yeah. But I'm going to feel bad about myself when I listen to it, and it's going to make me think too much, and then I'll listen to something else.
Cry while listening to it. Yeah, I get it. Like, it's such. You're right. This one actually is controversial because what about the musicians as well? What about you make music? Is that going to be a thing in a couple of years, or like I have a theory that maybe the record labels will just make fake AI people, like musicians, like they'll like use DALL-E to create like the perfect image of what somebody looks like.
The crazy frog.
Mika. Exactly.
They're up to it already.
Exactly. They were too early. They were pioneers. And then AI, voice, and then you can create on mass, on scale, instantly, like every sound, every possible combination. Some of it will stick. I don't even know if humans making music will be a thing in a couple of years. Is that going to be a reality? Is this the Beatles like doing it? Is that like the final like domino fall before it all happens?
Yeah, there are some things that my most curious self, despite the fact all the controversy that I might have just talked about, and there's maybe a duality in terms of how I'm thinking about this, but the generative thing is like, what if the Beatles made a black metal record?
Yeah.
Right, that's maybe I want to hear that. And
that.
an AI, definitely, that's the sort of weird world we could get into, and that I'm fascinated about, kind of just hearing, just the kind of an aesthetic desire to be like, what if? But yeah, is it that musicians are just like creating training sets, right? Sample libraries, already a thing, selling rights for sample libraries. Is that just loads and loads of musicians being like, here is a million different ideas that you can use as a training set or whatever? I don't know, there's like a whole world, isn't it? They say when an innovation comes, it's like it happens slower than you think, and you end up in a place that you never could have foreseen or whatever.
Yeah, I didn't
It's
expect
really
this.
hard to predict as a futurist where things are going, really. And I'm excited and nervous.
My consumption of music has gone from 100% Spotify to maybe 80% Spotify, 20% YouTube at the moment, because I've got a dedicated playlist on YouTube for AI songs I like, and I know it sounds weird, but there are some great AI songs out there. There's Oasis did an album called AI-sis. Yeah, which was great. It was like a new Oasis album. I was like, fantastic. Spotify, and they're not pretty going to host that because of the copyright issues and everything. So maybe there could be a Spotify killer coming in the future, where it's got a Google interface. You type in what song you want, you type in who you want to sing it, you click generate, and there you are. You've got it.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely.
I'd pay £10 a month for that. That'd be great.
Yeah, and I guess with AI, this has been happening a lot, I think, in digital rights management, and a lot of musicians talking about how we do fair attribution.
Okay.
And there's been lots of cases recently, right? There's the Ed Sheeran case that's just finished, about where does the line between someone plagiarizing, just outright copying, and where does inspiration come from? And do we think that training an AI is inspiration, or is that copying? Is the AI inspired by other artists to create that music? And some way of having, even if it's not a direct credit, some kind of way of attributing where things have come from. Like, this song or this thing is like 80% this and 20% this, coming out of an AI, rather than being like, this person wrote this melody. That I think that's like a really interesting space, that all these knock-on effects of how people are having to think about stuff like rights management in AI, which has existed in between bands and individuals already, but I feel like this is kind of pressing the point home to a point where people are like, oh, actually, maybe now we really need to sort that out.
It's automating it, so people are just, they're more nervous about it, because it doesn't require somebody sitting down, mixing it and making it, and then paying a couple, to get this drum sound in there or anything. It's different. It's on scale. We could have automation doing it. What about like musicians being paid for this? Because right now with GPT, you're not paid. It's just scouring the web, and they're not paying anybody for that. I'm sure they'll be paying some people for large data sets, but most people with the website on Google, if it's scraping information from your site, same with like DALL-E and Midjourney and stuff, I don't believe they're paying like photographers to upload content on there. Is that going to be the same for musicians? Are they going to just scour YouTube or wherever it's got free music hosted? Interesting. I mean, will they be paid for it? What about predictions? Like, what about yourself, Yarrow? Do you think musicians are going to be paid for using their songs, or do you think it will just be like a Wild West out there?
Yeah, to be honest, I think it should be controlled somehow, because otherwise it's not fair. And on the other side, also, I do see the future for the musicians. Instead of writing music, they will just train the neural networks, and they will kind of teach it how to do it. Also, to the good sides of this future, I would say that you see a lot with the people who are living with music. They get sometimes into the state that they don't have inspiration. They lose themselves and they start thinking about bad things.
Sure.
Now they have AI that can kind of help them to get back that inspiration and create something for them. So I hope that's going to reduce the amount of bad things in the world. One thing that I wanted to add to the previous topic was technically, if we check the old times when we had just a piano or xylophone or something, we had a clear acoustic sound. Then we created all the types of pedals and distortion and so on and so on. Does it count as like something completely different, like AI currently? So like a change to the music. It's not your instrument anymore. It's like they changed the instrument.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question, right? I don't think anyone really knows the answer to it. I mean, I guess that base file was somebody else's, but has it been changed enough to the point where it's now yours? I don't know. Like, no one knows.
Yeah, like synth patches, right? Some arpeggio or something like that.
Exactly.
That's on countless records, or those samples that are used over and over again. Someone's going to get paid. And I think there are enough people and enough money involved that working out who, I mean, PRS have been trying to do that a long time, right? Every time you play something in a public place, someone's going to get a performance cut for that. Yeah. And I think that's fair. You know, I think that is right. I think the artist should be rewarded for it. And at the moment, I don't think they are, through that kind of that point of inspiration or the sample or whatever. And maybe they should be credited for it. And maybe that's, you know, the royalty, whatever the share of royalty that needs to go to what's attributed. You know, you've got like 1% of this song really comes from this person, and so 1% of this proceeds should go to them, and finding some way to make that work. I know it's a complicated problem. Yeah. Maybe it's been automated for a while. We've had technology for a while and it's still not done. But I think there's so many more interesting things we could do to make sure we have fair attribution for that sort of work. And it's the same with images, you know, it's the same with artwork. It's hard, isn't it? Because you go back and be like, how many times people have asked DALL-E to create an anime picture or something? It's like, who owns what anime looks like? That's probably a hard thing to have attribution for in terms of like a stylistic thing. But yeah, it's fascinating, and I really hope people do make the effort to find a way to give fair payment to the individuals who have created. Because I think in terms of like going to the future of AI, I'd rather there were people around having, you know, selling their time for artistic and creative pursuits, and having the robots working in warehouses,
of course,
than having the people working in warehouses and the robots making music.
All the fun jobs. I know. It'll be interesting if this impacts podcasting at all, because I mean, podcasting is like the next thing to music, like in terms of closeness of mediums. Really, you know, will I be able to create auto-generate episodes in the future? You know, talking about what's happening in the world, scraping that data from different news platforms, having fake guests. You know, could I be interviewing Trump and Elon about a topic? I mean, it's getting their genuine opinions based on their, you know, social media posts. It'll be interesting to see if music is then the gateway to podcasting. I suspect it is. You know, it's just audio at the end of the day. Anyway, that clip about the Beatles was sent to me on Threads, believe it or not. So hit me up on Threads, handle on the screen at the moment. Let's try and make the new platform a success. Otherwise, that clip will age badly, and I'll be talking about Google Plus or something. Hey, really quick video just to give you a free subscription to Coder magazine. Coder is the #1 publication for all the latest tech news, expert insights, and exclusive industry interviews. With Coder, you get the inside scoop on what's happening with Elon Musk, with Bill Gates, with Jeff Bezos, with Mark Zuckerberg, and so much more. So if you work in the technology industry, then I'd highly recommend that you give Coder a read today. Just scan the QR code on the screen for free access now, or go to welovealpha.com/magazine to get your free subscription today. Next up, this is a concept regarding Amazon Alexa, giving it eyes, giving it facial features. So this is not an official Amazon product, but it's a clip which has been created by a YouTube channel called Workshop Nation, which has gone viral. I'll show the clip for people listening on video, watching on video at home. Essentially, it gives it a more advanced look with eyes, sound waves for a moving mouth. The clip's gone viral. People are saying Amazon should implement these types of innovations into Alexa and make it a little bit more interesting. Some people are saying that's just a bit creepy, and perhaps that you know, maybe it's a bad idea. Interesting one. What are your thoughts, chaps, on Amazon Alexa having eyes? Jason, what would your take be?
Brilliant. Love it. Yeah, I think this, I was talking about it earlier, and I think it's something that's quite close to my heart, I guess, is this idea that the robots are kind of entering our world, you know, and I don't really want us having to change the way that we operate constantly, or to adapt to how the robots want us to work. And I've got Google Home. I've played with Alexa. The software, the work that's going into speech recognition, again, it's one of those things, isn't it? The innovation comes and it takes longer than you realize or you think at the start. And so all of these bits of innovation, I really, really like the idea that it's kind of it gives it a character, that it's kind of more adapting to the way that we like to interact with individuals. I guess there's things where a lot of stuff in speech and conversation is down to body language. Humans just do that, right? So having sentiment built into to a facial expression or something like that, I think helps with communication. So if a robot can look sad when it's telling a sad story, there might be a bit of an uncanny valley. But I think that having that kind of empathy in your life with the things you interact with is good. Yeah. So I'm all for it. And this particular video, I think he goes into some decent detail about the kind of the technical journey getting there. It's very DIY, and I really, really love that. And it's nice. It's one of those things where I think anyone watching that's into tech can learn a lot about how to build stuff, which is super cool. So I'm all for it. What a fun project.
I like it, and it's nice to see like an outsider, like not Amazon like releasing this, like first an outsider going, hey, this has been the same for 5-7 years now or something. Let's try and innovate this product category a little bit. There's two reasons why I think this is gonna probably become a thing in the future. First is Amazon have actually already kind of been trialing something like this with Amazon Astro, which is a £1,000 Alexa on wheels. Basically, it's an Alexa, stick some wheels on it, stick an iPad screen on the front of it, or a Kindle screen, whatever they'd call it, and it's like a mini robot, but it's got eyes, kind of like a face. It didn't really, it was a gimmick test run, but when they can get that down to like a couple of £100, and figure out a more of a mass version, then that really could be the evolution of this. And then secondly, we did another story on the podcast recently about Alexa being able to pretty soon mimic your loved one's voices. So if you speak to it for a minute, it listens to what you sound like. It uses a neural network to create a fake AI version of your voice, similar to the Beatles story, and then it can then play that back to you, and you can make Alexa sound like different people. So if you've got the eyes, you could give it a personality, give it a name. I could see this maybe becoming a thing. What's your take, Yara, on the Alexa having eyes story?
Sounds creepy, to be honest. I mean, with the voices of the loved ones, because to be honest, my girlfriend, she still doesn't really like Alexa. I mean, she doesn't talk to her. I'm up for that, but can you imagine? I can't even imagine my girlfriend walking down the stairs and then seeing this robotic thing flipping with the eyes, and she will definitely won't be happy. But on the other side, it also shows how Amazon devices, Alexa devices, are not meeting the needs of the market, because I actually had to disassemble and hack mine as well, because I have an audio system, and I do use it for playing music from Alexa. Yeah. And there is a problem when you put something into the jack port. Okay. It will basically put everything, the sound, through the jack port, so you won't have ability to change it to the built-in speaker. And I had to overcome that thing, because sometimes I want to plug my audio system into it and play it from there, and sometimes I just need the speaker of the device itself. So that's one thing. Another thing, yes, that's definitely a future, and I can't remember the movie that I saw where there was a projection of an assistant walking in the flat or in the house. And I believe this is the future, because robots are cool, but I would probably use them for automation. But whenever you need some companion or some assistant, you definitely you don't need really the physical bit of it. So
more of a digital clone avatar sort of thing.
Yeah, what do you want? Do you want Cortana or C-3PO?
I want Cortana. She was much more attractive than the C-3PO. A C-3PO for doing my plumbing, maybe.
Yeah,
but I'm a married man with a child, but for friendly companionship, smiling, laughing, playing, then Alexa and Cortana all the way. I think Cortana was actually that was a Halo one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Did Microsoft call it Cortana on Windows?
No. Yeah, their assistant, their digital assistant.
They just copied.
Cortana, yeah.
Clever. Yeah. Okay. That clip was actually sent to me on LinkedIn. So if you enjoy the show and watch on LinkedIn, feel free to send me clips on there as well. Handles on the screen, getting all the plugs in today. Amazon, should they go for this then? Like in a couple of years, predictions, are we going to be seeing Alexas like they are right now? Like, I mean, it got smaller and smaller. It kind of started as like this like power brick thing, and then it kind of went to this like little mini. I think most people have got like a little dot or a home or whatever they call it, and obviously Google and I know Apple have re-released theirs, and that's much more of a beast, like a speaker system. I think they've done like an AirPod. What do they call? What's the Apple one called? I can't remember, but they've called the Air something Mini or something now. Everyone's got one. All the big tech companies have got a smart speaker. Are we going to start seeing them fleshed out a little bit more? Are we going to start to see eyes? Are we going to start to see hands? Are we going to start to see features like this? Should Amazon implement this idea, this recommendation? Jason, what do you think?
I think there's still an uncanny valley. You know, we've talked about how creepy it can be, and I think that's true. This guy built one himself, and it's got a cute kind of, and it speaks to my Star Wars used universe kind of aesthetic. So I don't think I'd find it creepy. I'd find it funny, and it's so obviously robot that there's no kind of like weird,
it's cartoony almost
space. And I think that's really hard to do, and I think it's going to be especially hard to do because the speech recognition, the language thing, it's just not there yet. For you to be able to talk in a natural and conversational style, you know, you really have to adapt the way you speak. You suddenly have to switch into a different mode, which is command-based, with all of these devices. And with what's happening with ChatGPT and those sorts of language models, I think as soon as that starts to really embed itself inside those systems, I don't think we're going to start to see any of these kind of anthropomorphism, you know, skeuomorphic kind of like things in the real environment type of adaptations, because it will just feel super creepy and clunky. And if I have to ask my Google Home like 8 times to play a track on Spotify because it just can't get what I'm talking about, I don't really want to be in an environment where I'm asking it to like get me a glass from the kitchen and it's bringing me back out like what's happening, like it's getting it wrong every time. So I think that the language models have to get really good, and Microsoft are really pushing that, but they're like Cortana is probably the least spoken about system there. So it's really interesting. The next 5 years, will it happen with Alexa or Google, or will suddenly there be some other player that jumps
Siri
in? Siri or something like that. I mean, I don't know, but it's definitely on the way, and I'm excited to see it again. Like a kid grew up with Star Wars, man. I want droids around.
Oh, me too. That'd be the ultimate fantasy, right? What about yourself, Yarrow? Should Amazon put eyes onto an Alexa device? What do you think?
I mean, whether should, I don't know, but if they will, definitely. So I see it coming for sure. Yeah. The other thing that I am a bit afraid, and I'm not really keen on, is the fact that probably they will add a couple of cameras there to do the telemetry and all this stuff, and you have a little spy that can be then hijacked by some criminals or like some hackers.
I've already got a bunch of like Ring devices in my house, so that ship has floated for me. But
so that's kind of what is a bit scary to me. At the same time, yes, it's definitely going to happen because people want that. At least it looks like people want that, and people want more. And Amazon also needs to deliver some features that will be interesting to the customers to start selling better.
Yeah.
So it should be powered with AI, as you mentioned as well, Jason. So that will enable the whole new spectrum of different things with that assistant. So that's the future.
Yeah. Amazon own Ring, don't they? So they could just create the Alexa Ring, and then the eyes are your camera, your home camera. So there's an idea. Yeah. Anyway, last clip is very much a bit of a 180. I don't really know how you can put a positive spin on this one, but it's about the US military using AI. So AI has just flown a F-16 fighter jet for 17 hours straight. Artificial intelligence is starting to replace military pilots. Some people are concerned that giving AI control of weapon-based systems could possibly backfire. I wonder why you'd think that. That's an interesting observation, probably an accurate one. But AI replacing pilots, replacing members of the US military. What are your thoughts on that, Yaro?
Yeah, so basically it reminds me about the news that they were running some simulation with AI with the fighter jet, and in the end the fighter jet actually killed the operator because the operator was trying to give them the false commands. So I wouldn't empower the AI with that sort of tools to actually to destroy anyone. At the same time, I kind of see a good future for this project, probably not in aerospace as fighter jets, but probably for the space itself. Because technically you don't need humans to put the ship somewhere in the universe, and it can control, it can take, well, you see some asteroids on the way, you just simply dodge it, and yeah. So I think that's probably where it should be, but at the same time it's really nice, and I mean I think it's 17 hours, right? So it's quite a long trip. So.
I mean, I completely agree with you. The AI application for the navigation, for space exploration, space tourism, or even just like normal planes, I mean, helicopters, whatever, cars, I mean, yeah, like self-drive it, make it automated, amazing. When we start going to like weapons of war and like giving like smart systems, which who knows if they'll be sentient one day, when we start giving them that control and power, I'm like, yeah, that's a little bit, perhaps a little bit too far. The problem is, if the US doesn't do this, China are going to do it, Russia are going to do it, so they kind of have to do it by the competitive landscape of warfare. What's your take, Jason, on the US military replacing pilots with AI systems?
Yeah, I guess we've talked about it a lot. We did it at the top of the chat about the flamethrower dog and things like that.
Same
similar sort
topic.
of world, and I feel like again, autopilot on planes. Maybe that's guided. It's like the difference between AGI, ASI are kind of sense of how much free will does this thing really have. And we give 21-year-olds, you need to have gone to uni to be a pilot or whatever, at least in the RAF, I think.
Okay.
And so we're training like people in their early 20s who have just got out of uni. Maybe they haven't been as wayward as others because they're going to be a pilot at the RAF. One would assume that they've lived a certain kind of life and studied in a certain kind of way. But I mean, like, what's the moral ability and compass in terms of this sum of experience in a 21-year-old, and where are we with where this AI's ability, like maybe that's like 2-year-old or 3-year-old. And no, I wouldn't give a missile to my
soon it will be smarter, right? Like soon we'll have a situation where these AI systems are better pilots than the 21-year-olds. So at that point, should we let them have the control?
And yeah, I think about the number of mistakes. People are talking about self-driving cars.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. This could be total fake news, and I apologize, but I imagine that there are more deaths to car accidents than there are to missiles being fired by. I mean, that's a big claim.
I have no idea, but my gut would say probably.
My gut would say probably.
Yeah, car accidents seem to be like a huge cause of death for average people, whereas war is obviously a lot different type of.
And everyone's desperate to put self-driving cars, and I tell you what, a car on a busy high street is a much more dangerous weapon than some air-to-ground missile.
In terms of the numbers, yeah, probably, yeah.
And all of those other safety nets involved in getting that weapon onto the delivery platform, getting that delivery platform in the air, giving it the scope to do whatever work it needs to do. If this AI is being like, I fancy going for a joyride and I'm going to load up with a bunch of ammo, that's probably a line we wouldn't want to let the robot cross. But we currently let people be like, I'm going to come out of a bar at 2 a.m. Smashed and think that I can drive myself home. So that to me seems far more dangerous. So I think in terms of absolute risk, it feels again uneasy. But a lot of this, the ship has sailed. The cruise missiles and things like that again that do like target detection, and a lot of what's happening with when you talked about drone operator, some guy in Iowa, right, in some base flying a drone. He's got a targeting computer telling him what he should be maybe looking at or should be assessing, right? And then he's going, probably right, click a button.
It's already happening to a degree, but the human's just there to, confirm the AI's decision. whereas this is kind of just replacing that human checkpoint from the end point. What's your view, Yarrow, on like, should we trust AI with weapons? Like, it's like such a big topic, isn't it?
Yeah,
great one for a morning as well.
So that's a hard question for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see one of the problems that it may bring is the fact that the human is pulling the trigger, but the killing is actually happening by AI. So this can kind of help humans to kind of remove that.
Yeah.
But this is bad because at the same time, I mean, I'm from Ukraine and the war is currently happening there.
Course,
so
yeah.
I see that if we had this tech in the US and if US wanted to kind of send it to Ukraine, it would be very helpful. I'm not saying that we need to kind of destroy Russia with that, but at least like shelter or like kind of cover the sky while Russians are shooting missiles. So it's good and bad, to be honest, because like you don't have human lives lost during that flight or like attack or whatever. Whenever it has good purposes.
But it's a fighter jet, isn't it?
Yes.
So I mean, like they're kind of using it for the assumption that maybe in like a couple of years, once it's like trained, you don't need humans. You're going to send them into a war zone. Yeah,
especially and like that, or if let's say there is a terrorist attack with the drones or something, you can always you don't have to sacrifice people in case something goes wrong. So it's AI flown, so it just does the job. And
it's such a hard one, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, even like terrorist attack. What about terrorist hacking into this and using these, right? So like or I mean, I know it's some people would laugh, but if AGI ever becomes a thing, then is it going to do what it wants to do, or is it going to require instruction and prompt? What do you think, Jason? Like AI, for warfare. What's your thoughts on that super complicated topic?
Yeah, it is super complicated. And I think when we think about where is the use of a weapon system justified in maybe a war of aggression. Is a good candidate, right? Where there's two sides to this, which is the loss of human life in terms of the fight that's happening, which all sorts of people can argue about whether the fight itself is justified. I think sometimes with despotism and a war of aggression, there is some justification, I think, in the war. And there's a second side, which is the person having to pull the trigger. The PTSD and the cost to a society of individuals who have had to have gone to that fight. Either they feel like they're justified in terms of a defensive war, or coming to terms afterwards with maybe a war of aggression that has a different moral sense retrospectively after the fact. All those individuals that have had to pull the triggers. As humans, we think that they are more capable of doing that. But actually, there's a huge amount of work that goes into all militaries to convince a human being to pull that trigger. It's not easy. You look at the numbers, and lots of studies were done from First World War onwards in terms of the percentage of individuals who shoot to kill. And in the First World War, it was small. It was like 15, 20%. A lot of the time, people were shooting high.
Okay.
Because confronted with the humanity of the person on the other side, the stories of people playing football at Christmas, right, in the First World War, that actually it was hard for militaries then to work out ways to train individuals to understand, to fight against every piece of human nature, right, which is to look after people in your community and other humans, to do that work. So there's a huge cost to that as well. And nobody wants to see someone's life cut short, in a war, in a war of aggression, or from terrorism. But there's two like really hard sides to this, and I feel like the cost of defense and the societal cost of having to train warriors to fight and the consequences afterwards. Maybe just to give a different perspective, maybe it's worth it for that.
I mean, it would definitely save lives. I mean, it would also the danger is it would potentially escalate war a lot quicker because you don't have the human side involved if people aren't dying as much on your side of the equation. Yeah, I think it probably, like, AI is just going to be in everything, isn't it? Whether it's music, whether it's robot dogs, whether it's the Beatles, whether it's the military. I think you said the genie's out the bottle, and it really is. It's like there's no going back at this point. But anyway, interesting topic. It was sent to me on Instagram. I don't know where. When I think of US military and Instagram, they don't really combine together. But I don't know why you sent it me on, DM'd me on there. But you can DM me clips on Instagram if you want to have them seen on the show and talked about. 90% of the stuff that we talk about comes from viewers, so please keep them coming in, so I've got good content to discuss. Cool. All right, I think that pretty much wraps us up. So thank you both for coming in. Good to get your perspectives, your insights, and your point of views. Thank you all for listening, for watching as well, and we'll see you next week. Thank you. Hey, thanks for watching this podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, comment, etc., and I'll see you in the next episode.